This is Truth Be Told.
That not only are there reptilians here,
new evidence of UFO fleets.
We were close to nuclear war.
To help you transform so that you can live your highest truth.
We're not being told just because we're not ready for it.
Radio stations of frequency, vibrational.
I was a homicide detective with LAPD.
UFOs increase, visitations. Today is the winter solstice, the beginning of winter. And what does that mean? We're going to find out today as we step into the enchanting world of Laura Cantu, where winter solstice transforms into a magical celebration. A twinkle in her eye, a heart aglow, Laura embraces the season's frosty wonder. And we're going to have a different take on the winter solstice, or how this season affects you, the yin and the yang of how to understand the solstice. I'm Tony Sweet with Truth Be Told. Please welcome to the Truth Be Told studios for the first time, Laura Cantu. Hi, Laura.
Hello.
I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, Laura Cantu.
Perfect. What is that? What is that background of that name?
Spanish.
Oh,
And
nice. Okay.
it goes throughout Italy as well, and some of the research that we've done comes from Genghis Khan, like Kantu.
Wow, look at you. All right, all right. I had a farmer's. That's about it. Well, today is the winter solstice, and I'm excited to have you here because, most of the time, December 21st come and go. People don't even pay attention to it. Christmas comes and goes, and we just kind of just live our everyday life. And I wanted to have you on to talk about what the winter solstice is, and especially to you, and what can we expect, and how does it affect us that we may not even know? Because right now we're also in a Mercury retrograde, so the two combined could be, I don't know, it could be pretty impactful. So first of all, what is a winter solstice?
The winter solstice is the shortest day of the year. And it's when the Earth is tilted on its axis. And for the northern hemisphere, it's further away from the sun. It's the furthest away it's ever going to be all year long.
Right.
And people celebrate the winter solstice is because, from the summer on, the days get shorter and shorter and shorter. So we kind of go into the dark night of the soul type of energy and mentality. And, people, whenever the days get shorter, you don't get enough light in your pineal gland in your eyes and things like that. So there's a lot of physical and emotional and spiritual ramifications of the days getting shorter. So a lot of people celebrate the winter solstice because it's like a rebirth. And from this day forward, we're going to start having more light and more huge energy coming up to help us manifest and help us clear out all of the stuff that we've gathered throughout the entire year.
And I know, I guess it affects me sometimes too, but there are some people, this season affective disorder, and the shortest day of the year when it comes to light. How does that affect us spiritually, not just physically, but spiritually? Or can it also benefit us in a way?
It can do both. So the pineal gland has photoreceptors inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the pineal gland is the physical representation of our spiritual connection to other vibrations outside of our physical body. So you know how like dolphins and things can use sonar and all of that?
Right.
Well, our pineal gland is that for us, where we can pick up on the subtle energies that are around us and surrounding us and throughout the entire universe. So on the shortest day of the year, we need to get, first of all, we want to get sunlight exposure on our third eyes, because that's what the pineal gland is.
Right.
A lot of times considered the third eye, or the physical representation of it. And the light is what activates it and balances it and turns it on. And when the photoreceptors don't get enough light, then your body produces more melatonin. and makes you sleepy and makes you tired and makes you want to hibernate.
Me.
So, and that's okay too, because in sleep and hibernation is when you get to work on the deeper parts of your spiritual aspects. Like if you're wanting to face a particular challenge, then you can go into that darkness and you can allow that darkness to show you what's happening inside of yourself so that you can better understand yourself.
Because my in-laws are from the Amazon, so they live pretty much around the equator.
Cool.
So it doesn't really affect it too much for the sunlight. So I guess it determines on where you are in the world. Is that correct? And
Yes.
okay, so how would that affect people in the north? I mean, even less light. And you know,
Right.
some and even some places up north, it's dark pretty much 24/7 for a period of time.
And and then later on it's light for a long time.
Right.
And they don't have enough dark. And that has, the way that it affects people mostly physiologically, mostly the same way. Whenever there's the absence of light, your body does produce more melatonin. It also can lead toward sleep disruption, sleeping patterns, because we have circadian rhythms.
Right.
And part of their circadian rhythms have to go, again, based on how much light we get into our eyes, along with the magnetic fields of the earth and the solfegial, or the frequencies of the earth as well. So there's not just one thing that says, hey, this is how you're going to be. It's a whole symphony of how the world works in accordance with how our body is created to work with the world. So if you live in the northern atmospheres, you're going to have to sync your body to that part of the world. And if you're just moving there, it can take quite a bit of time. But the longer you stay in a region, the more your body learns its cycles, especially if you're able to let go of the emotional attachments and stories that you've told yourself from living in other areas about how things should be. So grounding, for instance, can help you get in touch with the earth where you are, and getting light into your third eye area. And you can imagine light coming in your third eye, going down through your feet into the earth and coming back up. And that can help ground you to the area that you're at to make it easier to deal with the changes.
I know you talk about the yin and yang, and so I'm curious on the principles of yin and yang, on how it can help people understand the winter solstice. And I mean, this works in everyday life, because you're like, oh, my husband's a yin and I'm a yang, and we hear this all throughout our lifetime. So can you explain a little bit more about what that is, and how does it, kind of affect the winter solstice?
Yeah, so yin and yang,
Or yang,
it's
I
a
guess.
Philosophy. It's okay. Some people say yin.
Where I'm
people
from,
say,
they say yang.
yeah, and my teachers always said yang, yin yang. So it's a framework. It's a philosophy that you can use to look at everything in your life, to see cycles, to see balances and harmony throughout your life and the cycles of life. And because the winter solstice is part of the cycle of the earth, you can have a viewpoint of yin and yang. Now, yin is very cold. It's very slow. It's the feminine qualities. It's the rest and stillness and the moon and nighttime. It has everything to do with the darkness. And when you see that little yin and yang ball with the two things inside of it, the yin is the black side. The yin is the dark side. And the yang is very bright. It's very active. It's less solid, more ethereal. It has more masculine traits like heat, noise, movement, and quickness. And its representation is the sun. So, of course, it's the white side. But you always have a little bit of yin inside of yang and a little bit of yang inside of yin, which is why the two little dots are there, which then brings us into the principles of yin and yang.
Please explain those. I know you said there's 4 of them, so I'm curious.
And there are four. You've got the first principle is that yin and yang are opposite of each other.
Right.
Well, you've got light and dark. You've got hot and cold. So it's like the two sides of a pendulum swing or two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that yin and yang are interdependent, which means one cannot exist without the other. So how would you know what being cold is if you didn't know what being hot was? And then the next one is called mutual consumption. And mutual consumption means that when one is out of balance, the other one, whenever they fall out of balance, they make adjustments to restore harmony. So they shift their proportions relative to each other. So for instance, whenever you take a hot cup of coffee, you put an ice cube in it, the ice cube melts and gets hotter and turns more yang, and the coffee turns more cold. And there's 4 states of that too. There's too much yin, too much yang, too little yin or too weak yin, and too little or weak yang. And then the last principle is intertransformational. And that just says that yin and yang are not set on stone. They have this dynamic relationship and they're always in flux. So yin can change into yang and the opposite can happen as well. And they can transform back to each other very quickly. And one example of that is when someone goes out in the cold. Let's say it's a cold and rainy day. Now we've already said cold and water elements, the less solid elements, are more yin. So they come back inside and they're sneezing and they're coughing and they don't have a fever, but their body is experiencing and exhibiting a lot of yin signs. And if the yin builds up so high in the body that it can't balance out, then they will suddenly switch. And then all of a sudden you're going to have a high fever and yellow mucus and not be cold at all.
Oh, wow.
You might sweat stuff out, and that's the yin and yang trying to balance each other again.
I love that. Wow. There's a lot more to it than just, like you said, just hearing about the celebration of the winter solstice through a party. A lot more goes into it. I think, the human beings of today, we always think about a celebration of partying, which I think is great, but it's good to really know how this affects us. And speaking of affecting us, there are certain parts of the body besides the pineal gland. What other parts of the body that you have seen being affected? And with the Chinese medicine, what can we do? Is there anything we can take during this time to help boost energy or boost being restful and not, anxious at this time of year?
Yes. So to understand how to work with the body and the mood and the emotions and the spiritual aspect of this season, right now is the most yin time. So how we always said there's yang within yin? Right. Tomorrow, you can think of the yang right now as like a little tiny seed, and tomorrow it's going to start sprouting. By the spring is when the yang becomes really, really active. And then by the summer, it's in full bloom. So if you think about where you are in the cycle, we have already closed down. We've already been going into this sleeping cycle. And tomorrow, we're going to start waking up again. So the season is also associated with kidney and bladder meridians. And the major emotions associated with kidney and bladder is fear and anxiety and worry. Yep. And this is going to affect people. Might, go to the bathroom more, or they might have weak knees, low back issues, loose stools in the morning, increased urination, water retention, cold sensations in the lower abdomen, adrenal exhaustion, dark circles under the eyes. There's all kinds of things that can happen whenever the kidney energy is weakened by the cold and by the season. And kidney also supports the heart. So this season is also, especially around Christmas when the holidays are here, or when a lot of people may experience more heart attacks too.
Oh, wow.
So it's very important right now in this season, particularly, to stay very centered and to drink a lot of water and get your electrolytes in. And you can, if you eat foods that are black in color, that's going to help support the kidney and bladder.
Why is that?
But the color black is what supports the kidneys, black and dark blue. And, there's different colors for each organ, like green is for liver and gallbladder.
Right.
Red is for heart and small intestine. Yellow is for spleen and stomach. And white is for lung and large intestine. So if you think of white foods like onions, for instance, it can make you breathe more.
Right,
It gets in your breath and you're like, and garlic. So, like kidney beans aren't necessarily black in color, but they're darker and they're shaped like a kidneys. So those can be beneficial for kidneys. Just darker foods in color in general are good for kidneys. And then what you can do this season is just slow down. Just slow down and take deep breaths, because the kidneys are also known as the lower lungs. And anybody who has shortness of breath, in Chinese medicine, we also look at the kidney energy, because the kidney is the root of the lungs. The energy that travels down gets rooted in the kidneys and then helps to pull down so the lungs and the diaphragm can open. So you can meditate, you can eat warm foods, because cold, again, is a pathogenic factor that, harms kidney energy. So if you're eating raw foods and eating cold foods, you're actually not doing your kidneys any favor this season. So you'd want to cut back on raw foods and increase your sleep time, increase your rest time, and be okay to just be restful and not think of yourself as lazy. That's another thing in your mind. Now is the time to pay attention to what you're telling yourself and how you're talking to yourself, because everything that you're thinking is put into the world and mirrored back, and your body takes the impact of it. So because so many people have fear, there's fear of the dark, and this is the darkest day of the year. So there's a lot of fear just going around in the world, especially in the upper hemisphere right now.
And I think like my sister had passed away last February, and so her husband and my nieces and nephews are going through a time of loss, because it's their first holiday season, Christmas and New Year's, without their mother. So what can you tell people, not necessarily advice, but maybe something that people can take? Because I drink a lot of green tea. Is there any type of herbs or anything that people can take to help, not necessarily relieve that, grief, but can help relieve some of that stress? Because like I said, I love green tea, but there might be different types of teas that you might suggest.
Right now I'm kind of hesitant to recommend herbs, but what I can tell you is experiences with death that I've had that may help.
Please.
If you'd like that.
I would love that. Yeah, please.
So I've had a near-death experience, and I know what it's like on the other side. And one of the things that I've learned is, first of all, there is no separation between us and the people we love. There just appears to be.
Right.
If we can let go of the old relationship we had with them and stop insisting on a past relationship, then there's opportunity to create a new relationship, even though we can't see them with our eyes. There's a opportunity to go within our heart and to feel them. And if you can get the fear out of the way, of this fear of loss, which never actually happens, we never lose anything. If you can get rid of the fear of disconnection, which we never lose connection with who we truly are. These are just illusions that we tell ourselves. These are illusions that create doubt in our systems and our bodies and in our energy. And anytime there's doubt, there's blockage. So if we can let go of that and work on being kind with ourselves and insisting, I am connected, I am whole, I feel you, then you can create a new relationship with that person. And I've done that with loved ones that have died for me, and I've physically been able to hug them again after they pass.
Oh, wow. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, I'm going back in a few days, and, you never, I lost my mother 5 years ago. So nobody can ever say anything to make you feel better. It's nice to have that, know people support you, but there's not a word or a saying to say, oh, but you have to sometimes go within yourself. For me, it was a relief of saying, okay, I'm not being selfish because my mother was in pain and torture on this side. So that was my relief of letting her go. So, I know that's a lot of people are going through that first time holiday without it. So that's great words to give them.
And one of the major reasons that I believe people experience negative emotions around death is because they feel guilty. They question themselves. Did they know that I love them?
Yeah.
Did I do enough? I shouldn't have done that when I was a teenager. But I can tell you my experience on the other side, none of that matters. This is like a dream. It's like if you were in a video game and you were playing a video game and you punched a guy.
Correct.
And later on you get out of the video game and you're like, man, wasn't that fun?
Right.
It doesn't, those things don't actually matter. That's doubt, and fear that's plaguing our inner consciousness, and it's an illusion.
Love it. And one thing that you had mentioned about during this winter solstice, it's great to honor our dead. It's great to honor our ancestors. But how can people honor themselves during the winter solstice? Because I think we do forget about ourselves, because it's all about giving. This time of year, it's give. We get gifts, but, we're taught to give. But sometimes you have to give to yourself, too. So how do you honor yourselves during this winter solstice?
Yes, many people do have the unfortunate habit to overgive. So let's say, and they don't necessarily always have the kindness within themselves to be themselves, to be able to say no.
Right.
So let's say someone invites you to a party and you're like, I really don't feel like going, but I have to go so that they know they're cared for. Or if there's any reason, if you don't want to go, you don't want to go. And we keep talking ourselves into going. We keep forcing ourselves to do things that we wouldn't normally if we really listen to our heart. It's like, no, I'd really just rather stay home and spend some time being quiet and contemplative and, figuring stuff out. This is really a time for rebirth and renewal. And if we continue to treat ourselves in ways that are harmful and against our own heart's will, we will continue those cycles in the future. So if you can just stop and ask yourself, how am I being kind to myself today? In every moment, if there's the way that you can tell if you're being kind to yourself is that in every moment, joy is abundant in your life. If you are on center and if you are really in tune with your heart, anytime you feel pressure, doubt, sadness, fear, or any lower emotion, you can stop, because if you continue in that energy, you will continue it in the next moment and the next moment. It's like planting seeds. So this is a really good time to just stop and do inner reflection and say, what can I do in this moment right now? What's going to make me the most happy, the most peaceful, the most relief taken off of me right now? And you stay there until you find it. You can connect to nature to help you. If you can't find it on your own, go outside and get grounded, hug a tree, if it's not too cold anyway.
Right.
If there's a pet that you love to enjoy time with, hold that pet. Or if there's someone that you just want to embrace and hug, get your hearts in sync together. There's so many things you can do to find kindness within yourself. But again, anytime you're not kind is to yourself is whenever you have that feeling of pressure or obligation or, servanture, something that is really not what you want to do. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And what really stood out to me is what you said earlier about rebirth. A lot of people are like, what does that mean? What is rebirth? I mean, it's like, when we think of birth, we come out of our mother's womb and, we're being taken care of for many years and then released to the world. But what does rebirth mean to you when it comes to winter solstice, and how? Because I think people may get confused on what direction to go.
So rebirth, there's cycles. There's always cycles. We have been in a cycle where we've been having the opportunity to go inward and to face more of the darker stresses that are in our lives.
Right.
Rebirth is an opportunity to stop the story that you've been living and to create a new story and to say, no, I'm not going to believe in you anymore. I'm not going to participate with you anymore. That's the old me. And I declare right now that this is my life because I am the creator of it. And especially if you get in sync with your pineal gland and get some sunlight on it and then imagine it dropping into your heart, then your heart and your brain and your body become really coherent. And then you can make those declarations with power behind them.
Oh, wow. So
that reality shifts.
I love that. And that's perfect. Yeah. And I think, again, a lot of people wake up in the morning on, the December 21st going, okay, they talk about a rebirth, but what do I do? And so I want, if you don't mind, giving an example, what you did this morning to wake up on the winter solstice. What do you have a tradition to do something, or how do you wake up to celebrate this day?
I do. The very first thing I wake up 2 hours. I set aside 2 hours for a meditation.
2 hours, good for you.
2 hours, yes. And during this meditation, the first thing I do is I look at what's happening within me and I look at the story that I'm carrying. So for instance, do I have neck pain? Do I have back pain? I look at my physical body and I look at my relationships and I just take an overall inventory of my life and where it is. And then I decide, what are the things that I'm no longer willing to carry? What are the things I'm no longer willing to participate in? And then I begin breathing. And whenever you breathe through your nose and you make the sound, I call it ocean breath, but I'll see if I can make that sound for you. It goes. Can you hear it? Mm-hmm. It's where the air goes into the back of your nose and it literally creates an infinity symbol. Oh, and while it's creating an infinity symbol, some of the air and the oxygen actually goes directly to the brain, bypassing the lungs, and the rest of it goes down to the lungs. And when you do that long enough, when you start concentrating on your breath long enough, there's a cycle that starts happening within the body. The spine starts adjusting itself and swaying and moving and allowing you to let go of the things that you don't want. And then from there, I ground. I imagine a light going into the ascended earth, the crystalline core of the ascended earth, and then bringing all of its energy and up through the top of my spine, and it spills out like a toroidal field. It goes back down into the ground and then comes back out. Oh, and great. I sit there in that motion for a while as the blockages in the spine get out of the way. And then after it feels really clear, then I get the light from up above, from source, or what people want to call divine light, and I bring it down through the top of my head, all the way down the spine into the earth, back up and around, and it spills the opposite way. Wow. And then I have both of those going at the same time. And then I have both of those lights meet in the center of my spine. And when they do, I imagine it like in a big blast that creates this big ball of light around me. And then all of these tiny geometric, we have geometric energy patterns throughout us, and they start spinning. If they're not spinning, they're stuck. So I imagine all of these spinning. And then whenever you're doing your ocean breath while doing all of that at the same times, that's when miracles happen. And I've actually levitated doing that before.
Really?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm over 200 pounds. I don't know if that... No, I'm just kidding.
And levitation is not what I thought it was the first time I did it. I thought levitation before I did it was just coming off the ground, but it's not. It's pushing everything away from you in all directions.
Oh, okay. So, okay. That's a new take on. I've never heard of that either.
Yeah, I hadn't either until I experienced it. And I was like, oh, I'm pushing that which is not me away. And it was the most natural experience. And it made me understand that this is actually how we were made. This is, we're supposed to be able to do this.
I guess if you think about, if you're saying lifting off, you're really just pushing the ground away from you. So, that's a good take on it. And I think that might help a lot of people today. And, they could do this at night. They could do this at lunch hour. I'm sure anywhere where there's at today, when the sun goes down, and as today, there's no sun because it's pouring down rain. But, I think that's something we could try.
And there is a nighttime thing we can do too.
Please tell, like I said, I want to know it all so people can maybe start their own traditions.
And at nighttime, if you review your day, you can change. You can imagine what you want to change throughout that day. And then you can go back and do that throughout your year. And then you can go back and throughout your entire past until you've imagined the life exactly and your story exactly as you want it. And then from there, imagine what you want as if it's really there. And then like Neville Goddard has that technique that you fall asleep in what you want. And while you're asleep, the universe works to get it for you. Oh,
that's what I need. Can you buy that at Walmart? Wouldn't that be nice? Well, before we talk about your book, do you mind taking a couple of fun questions that I ask some of my audience to participate in? It's just kind of fun questions about the winter solstice, and I thought some of these are kind of fun to ask, and if you can answer them, that'd be great.
Okay.
Well, this one we kind of just talked about. If you could have a winter solstice tradition, what would it be? So that kind of was what we talked about. But this one is kind of fun. Why do we? No, we did that one too. Oh, come on, you guys got some good ones here. I just got to pick a good one. All right. So if winter solstice had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Let It Go by Frozen.
Oh, I love that. That's a good one.
Let It Go.
That's a good one.
All right. Perfect time for that. And if you see in that song, she does exactly what we've been talking about this whole time. She lets it go. She embraces her power, and she's like, "This is me." You know.
Well,
this is me. I'm not going to deny myself anymore.
Oh, this is me from whatchamacallit. All right. How about this one? If winter solstice were a flavor of ice cream, what would it taste like?
For me, it would be mint chocolate chip.
Oh,
the yin within the yang, right?
Right. Oh, that's
a lot of yin and a little bit of yang.
And last one here is imagine that if the winter solstice were a superhero, what would be its superpowers?
Superpower for winter solstice, It would be the power of seeing into the core of anything at once.
Ooh, that's a big superpower.
Yeah. Seeing beyond.
I love that. Well, thank you for participating. Thank you for everybody that put those fun questions in. Okay, so you're also an author, and so I want you to talk briefly about this book, and we may have to have you back and talk more into it, but this is this released or coming out soon?
Yes, it has been released. Yes, it's out already. It's a middle grade fiction novel.
Oh, I love it. So tell us, where do you come up with some, because I know you have several books coming out too, and how many books do you have already? And where do you come up with these ideas? That's a great imagination.
Thank you. I have 3. So you know how people try to say that the imagination is not real and it's just your imagination?
Mm-hmm.
I believe the opposite. I believe that the imagination is just as powerful and can be just as real as the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on your point of focus and your consciousness, and how you want to proceed through that. So these stories came to me in dreams where I went and visited these places, or the premise of them did, like the fairy realms, what people would call the angelic realms. I call them bellwethers in my book. Showed me, the earth and the balance between the earth and the waking up of the earth, and how the earth was calling for a change. And it comes through dreams, out of body experiences. For a while, I had fairies all around me all the time and
Wow.
saying, "Tell my story." I made an agreement with them to tell the story. And the premise of the story about the three little kids, the main characters in the book, they're not real. They're facets of me and people that I know that I
Right.
put together to tell the story of how the earth is waking up.
I could see this as a movie. Hey, it worked for Twilight and Harry Potter. You never know. Some of these may end up becoming major motion pictures,
Could be someday.
right? Well, I think imagination is great because growing up in a small town, and I always had a big imagination, and honestly, that's how I created my life. It got me out of Kansas, it got me into California, it got me started my business, it got me pretty much everything I did was started with my imagination. And some people just imagine it and never follow through with it, and I'm just one of those, and I'm sure like you, and there's many people I know that we're what they call dreamers, but I think people like us is what created many of the inventions on this planet. So thank you. I think thank you for doing what you do and creating these books and series. And you say they're on audio books too, which is
Yes.
perfect for me because my ADD would not allow me to sit and read it.
Yes. Do you know who Terry Fader is?
I know the name.
He won America's Got Talent.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He was
Yeah.
a headliner at Mirage.
Yeah.
He narrated it.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
he
look
does
at
all
you.
these voices, and it's so fun. And it was so fun to work with him. He's an amazing guy.
Well, as you can see, everybody underneath, and if you're listening, underneath Laura's name, it says Winter Wolf Press. So are you a publisher?
I am. I have a small press. My partner and I have a small press, and we publish books that we think will benefit humanity, to help lift up the ascension process. And we do stay away from dystopian novels because, again, we believe that imagination is powerful, and we don't want to contribute to anything destructive
Right,
in
no.
a future we don't actually want.
Would that, if people out there are creators and have a great imagination, if they have a book idea, can they submit it to your?
Absolutely. Our submissions is open. It may get closed here pretty soon. Like, I'm thinking maybe in February, because we're getting a lot of submissions right now. And it's a small press. We have
Right.
a team of maybe about 20 people. And it has to all go through us, and we work really hard and look at every single thing and see if it'll fit in our lineup. But yeah, if you want to submit, you can. Or if you just need help, we also offer services to people, like if they need editing and they don't want to publish with us.
What about ghostwriters?
We have ghostwriters as well.
Oh, I may have to call you. Okay.
Yeah. And what's different about our press than other presses is that we literally hold the hands of the authors the whole time, and we teach them. Like the authors that come to our press,
Mm-hmm.
they work hand in hand with the editors. Like most of the time when you hire an editor, you turn in your manuscript, they edit it, and they give it back to you.
Right.
And then you have to figure out what to do. With our press, we use like Google Docs or something like that, where we make comments and we get on a call and say, hey, let's talk about this. What's going on? And
Right.
we educate them. We think you should change this because of this. Like, for instance, a lot of people will write in a symmetry way where it's like, whenever you read the text, it's like da 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 da
Right.
da 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 da, and that makes the brain fall asleep. So you have what's called perplexity, and they're using it in AI now, burstiness, where in human conversation you can hear how I'm talking, da da da,
Right.
da 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 da. So you got to write the same way to keep the brain active, keep it from falling asleep.
Well, it's true, and as we get older too, at least for me, you're still in your 20s, but as
Me?
we
No.
get
You're funny.
as we get older, though, our not only our attention span, just we've had a lot of amazing things going through our head. So yeah, we have to be entertained a little bit more. But Laura, thank you so much for doing this and being a part of Truth Be Told and bringing us what the winter solstice is, and a different take, talking about the yin and yang and how it affects our body. I think it's a great topic for people to understand how to celebrate, and also how to just be aware of who we are and how it affects us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to see you and meet you. And
you
thank
too.
You.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you. Please go to LauraCantu.com or winterwolfpress.com. You can check out all her stuff and maybe other authors. And for me, please listen to Robert Hensley on Monday for Minutemen Report at 3 o'clock. Bonnie Burkert doing Truth Be Told Transformation. And she has a great show of the spirituality, the gurus, meditations. And, of course, me every Friday with a whole buffet of paranormal topics that we talk about for the last 13 years. And I'm here every Friday at 3. So, thank you guys. Have a great Christmas, holiday season, New Year. And I'll see you next week with Adam Berry from Kindred Spirits. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. This has been another episode of Truth Be Told. Thank you so much for watching. Recorded live at UBN Go Studios in Burbank, California. Join us on social media. Facebook, Truth Be Told Radio. Instagram, Truth Be Told Paranormal. Go to Truth Be Told Worldwide for more information on upcoming shows.